Reddit, where introverts and incels go to yell at each other. Hollywood, where child actors go to get groomed. And Arizona, where pitchers now go to die. Add Corbin Burns to that list, or at least potentially in a really strong way. It really is interesting to see the trend the Arizona Diamondbacks have been on for years. If you look back, you'll realize they have a thing for signing starting pitchers to bigger contracts, and they all have one thing in common. They've all aged just about as well as Mickey Rourke. 4 of the top 5 most expensive D-backs contracts in history are starting pitchers. The D-backs have never been a threat for a star position player, a guy like Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, Shohei Ohtani. There was a 0% chance any players like that would ever end up there. But if you're a veteran starting pitcher who will demand a lot of money, D-bags will be interested. Go back to even 1998 when they signed Randy Johnson to a big contract. At least at the time it was considered big, and it couldn't have worked out any better. It might be the most rewarding contract of all time. It's definitely up there. He won 4 straight Cy Young Awards after signing the deal with the D-backs, with a championship also being won in the process after Curt Schilling and other veteran starters joined him. Now, Curt was traded there. He wasn't signed to a free agent deal, but again, it just shows how much they love getting veteran starters, and so those 2 moves worked out, the Randy Johnson contract and Curt Schilling trade. So pitchers didn't go to Arizona to die in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's been a more recent thing, unfortunately. It started with Zack Greinke, kinda. After an insane 3-year run with the Dodgers, I mean, his ERA was 1.66 in 2015. He was insane. He became a free agent and signed a 6-year, $206 million deal with the D-backs. Now, this deal didn't age poorly because Greinke wasn't good enough. Was he as ridiculous as he was in LA? No, but he was still damn good. Wasn't an all-star in his first year of the contract, but was every year after that for the D-backs until he was traded to Houston in 2019. After he was an all-star as a D-back to start the year. So I would say the biggest miss from that deal was not having Greinke the whole way through. Although I guess in the end, better to trade him than to keep him and lose with him. So in the end, I would say this contract worked just in a much lesser extent than the Randy Johnson contract did. And it's all been downhill from here for D-backs starting pitching deals. Months after they traded Greinke away, they went back onto the market to replace him with Madison Bumgarner, signing him to a 5-year, $85 million deal. And to sum up how that went...
Parkour! I'm right behind you, Andy! Come on! Yeah!
He legit couldn't have been any worse. Opposing hitters seeing Bumgarner take the mound was like Dave Blunt seeing a buffet. Just pure joy, ready to feast, because that's all they did off him. Until Arizona had enough and straight up released him with a couple years and $34 million left on the contract. Could be a lot worse. Wasn't the craziest deal ever, but obviously a failure. They released Bumgarner in April of 2023. In December of 2023, Arizona was back out on the market to replace Bumgarner with another left-handed starting pitcher, Eduardo Rodriguez, on a 4-year, $80 million deal, and so far that's been as good of a decision as Disney making the sequel trilogy. Rodriguez has barely been healthy to begin with, and when he is good enough to be out there, you just wish he wasn't, at least if you're a D-backs fan. Just getting shelled out there, and a year after signing Rodriguez, the D-backs signed yet another lefty free agent starting pitcher, this time Jordan Montgomery, and it's ironic how this deal ended up being the one the D-backs owner Ken Kendrick hates the most, or at the very least publicly that's the case. Anyone else think Kendrick looks like Boss Baby as a grown-up? A friend told me that once, and I can't not see that now. Either way, he cried like a baby about his regret for signing Montgomery. He was not shy about that. But it's not like Montgomery's on some crazy deal. He's making good money per year, but it's only for 2 years. Out of all the guys that they've signed, though, Montgomery definitely seems to be the most complainy. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word, but it is now. Montgomery's publicly complained more than anyone else in like an excuse way. He blamed the humidity in the D-backs ballpark, Chase Field, saying it's like pitching in a jungle, which to be fair, he's not the only guy who's complained about that. Zach Gallen once blamed a cramp on the heat and humidity in the ballpark, and that probably is valid. That's probably why there's a lot of issues, and it definitely doesn't help pitching. But Montgomery also publicly blamed Scott Boras for fumbling his free agency and preventing him from getting a bigger contract than he did, which might also be valid to say, but Blake Snell had this same exact scenario happen to him, and it worked out. He ended up getting a big contract anyway, the next free agency with Boras. So even if these are kind of valid complaints, it just doesn't look good to see him complaining. You wish he could maybe hold himself more accountable. So maybe that kind of stuff had to do with Kendrick being so openly regretful and not shying away from trashing a player still under contract. Montgomery can't even have the chance to redeem himself in his last year under contract because he had to get Tommy John surgery, which was announced after he had lost the final starting rotation spot in spring training, which is funny to think he learned he didn't make the team and was like, all right, and snapped his elbow in half. You don't want this elbow? Nobody can have it. But at this point, the D-bags are a big O for their last 3 and free agent contracts for starting pitchers, which is really all the free agents they get anyway. Bumgarner, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Jordan Montgomery's, as of right now, have all been complete failures. So this most recent offseason, the D-bags said, screw it, let's change some things up. We're signing a right-handed starting pitcher, Corbin Burns. Now, the way Burns signed with Arizona is a little different than it usually goes. He had a few different teams willing to dish up good money for him, and originally the D-bags weren't one of those teams, not because they didn't want him, more so because they assumed they just wouldn't be picked. They didn't think they'd be able to give him an offer that he would prefer over other teams. It was like The Bachelor. Just imagine one of the remaining girls is checked out. She just assumes she's not the one who's going to be picked, and the guy is like, no, I want you, despite all these other girls showing more interest. That's basically what happened. Burns got a bigger offer from the Blue Jays and the Orioles, who he played for last year. They offered him the highest annual salary of anyone. But Burns was set on his true love, and also his disdain for birds, apparently, telling Boris to reach out to Arizona and tell them they were interested. A big reason for this, Corbin actually lives in Scottsdale, Arizona during the offseason. He and his wife have lived there for years, so he preferred to be closer to home if he had the chance. The D-backs are competitive. Why not make this happen? And so they did. And even though Burns turned down a bigger number of money from the other teams, the money he got from the D-bags was actually worth more in the end anyway, because their state income tax in Arizona is way lower compared to Toronto or Maryland. So it worked out all around in the end. Well, for Burns it did. For the D-backs, it's now another shit show. Now, it's not just a hindsight thing. We'll get to why it's a disaster right now. But even when the D-backs signed Burns, even before that, when he was a free agent, you could see why it was risky for any team to commit to him on a long contract. Go back to 2021. Corbin Burns is on top of the pitching world. I mean, that season was historic. That's how good he was. He had the best ERA in baseball, the best FIP in baseball. For those who don't know, FIP is basically ERA without luck involved. And it was almost an entire run lower than his ERA, which was already the best, meaning as good as he was also getting unlucky. And he's continued to be good, but little by little each year since 2021, he's regressed. His strikeout stuff, especially. He went from striking out 36% of batters in 2021 to 30% in 2022 to 25% in 2023 to even lower at 23% in 2024 with the Orioles. And through all this, he was still putting up good numbers, but it is concerning to see stuff like his strikeouts keep declining because long term that might not age well at all. And in hindsight, what just happened may have had to do with his decline over the years. Burns already missed a start in May this year because of shoulder inflammation, but then he came back, and in his most recent outing, he was dealing, which makes the whole thing suck more. The fact that the talent is there, he's really good. It's just the injuries they're just holding him back. He was dominating the Nationals. He struck out the side in the first inning, 6 strikeouts into the 5th inning, but it was after this pitch that made Burns go, all right, there's a problem. This doesn't feel right. This whole sequence, you can tell, was Burns basically just coming to terms with the shitty reality that his elbow's cooked. He goes from immediately being pissed off to telling the team trainer, my elbow's gone, it's dead, before leaving the game. And afterward, he didn't say anything along the lines of I'm cooked to the media when he was talking to them, but his tone, it said it all, that it would be a miracle if this didn't require a season-ending surgery. And a few days later, it was confirmed that he will need Tommy John surgery, meaning year 1 and 2 of his 6-year contract are now a complete wash. The Orioles and Blue Jays dodged a bullet. Meanwhile, this is the Brewers after people, including me, trashed them for trading Burns.
They called me a madman.
So the D-bags signed Bumgarner. He sucked. They signed Rodriguez. Not good. Jordan Montgomery. Not good. And also had to get Tommy John. Burns was at least pretty good, but now he has to get Tommy John too. And as much as this blows, it's necessary. It had to happen sooner or later, just like with every pitcher other than Aroldis Chapman for some reason. And again, maybe his elbow not being fully healthy is what's been leading to his regressing little by little each year. So maybe him getting surgery can get him back to his fully elite form. Just gotta hope for the best. But right now, this is another contract disaster for the D-backs. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching. Love you. Bye.